This is the Security Education, Training, and Awareness course presented by the TLT Fall of 2022 Cybersecurity Interns. First things first, let's talk about human error. Human error causes the most cyber attacks. There are two types of human error: skill-based and decision-based errors. Skill-based errors occur when someone makes a mistake or when someone doesn't know the best course of action. These kinds of errors are slowly going away because of automation. Automation allows for fewer skill-based errors to occur because a computer will do something the same way every time. Decision-based errors happen when someone experiences a lapse in judgment. A common version of this error is phishing, which will be explained later in this course. This kind of error is much more difficult to fix and requires training courses much like this one. Even with these courses, there will still be people who will fall victim to decision-based errors. A couple statistics about human errors are that 82% of all data breaches are due to human error, which makes it one of the most crucial parts of cybersecurity. It is so important to make sure that near to no human error occurs in a company, otherwise the company could be in danger of attacks. Some key issues include other kinds of attacks existing solely because of human error. Some of these are having bad passwords, phishing, like we said before, vishing, and much more. A way of mitigating errors would be to have training for employees, much like this one. Another is having group policies, which would restrict how employees could use devices in the company. Lastly, the company could have employees use only company devices while on site. Human error is extremely widespread and incredibly hard to overcome, but all that can be done is to try and reduce it as much as possible.
When it comes to password security best practices, usually it will be summed up to these 4 bullets that I have in this slide, starting with a minimum length of 10 to 14 characters long, with long paraphrases being even better. Complexity in passwords is important, especially when we want to use uppercases, lowercases, characters, numbers, and symbols, just to make the password more complex and harder for the attackers and hackers to decipher your password. We want to make sure you use different passwords through different websites in case one of your passwords gets deciphered, and that would let your accounts be safe from that 1 weak password you used. If you can't keep on thinking of different passwords for different websites, I would recommend using a password generator with a password vault that will keep your passwords safe and increase the complexity of your passwords to keep your personal information safe. If, in case you were wondering if your information is safe or not, I would recommend go to Have I Been Pwned and see if there's been any personal data breaches that happened to any account that you have over the internet. And to the right, we have a picture of one of our password vaults. It gives you like a little assessment of how many weak passwords you have, how many of them are old that needs to be changed.
Computer theft prevention. To keep your computer and data from being stolen, you should protect your data by making regular backups and encrypting confidential data on your computer. Turn your desktop computer off before you leave campus or the office at the end of the day. Disable auto login and practice the clean desk policy by ensuring all technology with confidential data is locked in a place a thief can't reach. Consistently lock your screen when stepping away. Do not leave your computer unattended in public areas. Ensure that no one can see your username and password when logging in, and configure devices to be remotely wiped if stolen.
Removable media. What counts as removable media? These are everyday items used in personal and professional spaces, such as charging cables, battery banks, USB storage devices, wireless receivers, and much more. What are the dangers of some of these devices? While seemingly innocuous, the USB and other ports on your machine are prone to exploitation. These devices' portability and flexibility in connecting to a variety of networks and hosts on the fly also expose them to data loss and network breaches. Even with built-in safeguards, these items can trick your computer to read them as an HID or human interface device, such as a keyboard. A real-world example of this is called a rubber ducky. Rubber duckies use what's called keystroke injection to push malicious code or a sequence of commands to steal passwords, exfiltrate data, or install a backdoor, and much more. Having your device succumb to a USB-related attack can provide the attacker with full control over your machine. I actually have one of these with me and will quickly demonstrate how fast it works. For this, I've pre-configured a payload to open a new browser and redirect to TLT's website. And now it's in. And just like that, your computer has been compromised without your knowledge. The most effective solution to keystroke injection is simply to utilize a least privilege policy. Using a non-administrator account or requiring credentials to make any changes to your computer defeats most of these attacks. Since they're pre-configured payloads, the majority of these attacks rely on the use of command prompt or PowerShell.
Public Wi-Fi risk. There are pros and cons to using public Wi-Fi. A pro is that free and public Wi-Fi is awesome and super convenient on the go, and a consequence of it is that connecting to it can expose individuals to cyber security attacks. Assuming people connect to a business network or public Wi-Fi and not a malicious hotspot, the exposure you get from connecting to either can result in man-in-the-middle attacks, honeypots, malware, viruses, network snooping, and all of that can spiral into identity theft or work-related data breaches. There are ways to protect yourself if you do choose to use public Wi-Fi, such as adjusting your connection and privacy and sharing settings on your devices. Avoid sending or accessing sensitive information, for example, banking apps. And ensuring that your firewall and antivirus softwares are updated, using a VPN when navigating online, using two-factor authorization on apps, and logging off of the public Wi-Fi once you're done.
Phishing. Phishing is the fraudulent practice of sending emails purporting to be from reputable companies in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information such as passwords and credit card numbers. The purpose of phishing is to get sensitive information. The information may be used by the attacker or sold for cash to a third party. Money is the primary concern in most cases. How to avoid phishing attacks. To avoid phishing attacks, you should never provide account numbers, passwords, social security numbers, or other personal information. You should also rotate your passwords regularly and use two-factor authentication. How to report a phishing attack. If you receive a phishing email, you should report it to your organization's IT team. The email should be sent to a dedicated email account for phishing so the IT department can handle the situation.
Vishing is an attack that falls under the scope of the phishing umbrella. It basically uses fraudulent phone numbers, voice-altering softwares, and text messages, as well as social engineering, in order to trick people to send sensitive information. Basically, vishing generally uses voice software since it has a V in vishing. It uses voice software to trick users. The purpose of vishing or any phishing attack in general is to get sensitive information through the use of fake credentials and social engineering. In this case, it will be using voice memos in order to act as a real person and steal someone's sensitive information. For example, it could be, we are the FBI calling to make sure that you are updating your social security number. Please call back at this number or whatever. How to avoid and protect. The best move to make is to ignore the messages. Most cell carriers will have built-in detection of scammers and fraudulent activity. So ignore calls from unverified numbers and be aware and skeptical of people who want sensitive information.
One thing users commonly do not, but need to pay attention to, is the risk of downloading software off the internet. This could be intentional or unintentional. A few examples of risks, as shown, are Trojans and viruses, or malwares in general, which will help attackers with their purpose and could lead to something like injections. An injection is exactly as it sounds, which is when the attacker basically places some coding into a software or program that'll run commands for them. So how can you watch out for these risks? First and foremost, make sure your URL entry is correct. For example, make sure you type in YouTube and not YouTube. This is an example of typo squatting, which is where the user makes a tiny error that'll lead them to another website that looks exactly the same in order to steal credentials. You can also tell that a website is more secure if the HTTP in the beginning of the URL has an S, so it'll be HTTPS for secure. Another thing you can do is not click random links or ads, and if you do, make sure that it's from a reputable source. And finally, when downloading files, pay attention to the file extensions of the file. Make sure you're getting exactly what you're expecting. If it has a different file extension, it could be a malicious file. The file extension is the 3 letters after the dot at the end of the file. For example, .exe, which stands for execute, or .bat, which stands for batch, or .msi, which is a Microsoft installer. Be extra cautious about this step. Execute is most common because you're running the application simply by double-clicking the file, which makes it the easiest attack. Other files run the same way and can do even more damage, like go to the root of your operating system and place a rootkit or various other things in there. So in conclusion, slow down, be vigilant of what you're downloading, clicking, and navigating to.
The TLT training course has now concluded. Thank you so much for watching.